Hello and welcome everyone to this week's episode of the podcast. This week is a lovely treat because I am joined by the wonderful Emily Little. So Emily has her own jewelry business called The Little Wedding Jeweler, and you can probably tell from the name some of the things that she
Yeah.
might get up to, providing jewelry for people who are having weddings, something a little bit different. She's also completed the diploma in silver jewelry with Jewelers Academy, and she has a really interesting story where she kind of was interested in the wellness industry. She still has a very strong interest there. We're going to talk about that together. She had her own wellness center, which sounds very relaxing, but as anyone who's ever run a business before probably knows, it doesn't matter the nature of the business, it can be a lot. And she did reach a stage of burnout, which we have a chat about. And jewelry was kind of part of the journey to recovery for her, amongst other things. So I think it's going to be a really interesting listen for people, and it's just lovely to have you guys here listening along with us. So thank you, Emily. Thanks for coming and having a chat with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did jewelry making kind of come into your life? Because it was a little bit came at a time when there were perhaps some challenges.
Definitely, yeah. So as you mentioned, I was previously owning and running a wellness center. Like you say, sounds relaxing. And in some ways it was relaxing, but also it did lead me to burnout. It was very demanding, very draining, very tiring, and I couldn't maintain it for too much longer. So I moved my private practice online, and all my lovely clients came with me, followed me, which was lovely. And working remotely just gave me an opportunity to kind of reassess and sort of figure out what I wanted to do differently, what I wanted to change. And I was drawn to the beach. I was drawn to taking walks along the beach, collecting shells, making shell jewelry. And that led me to want to kind of really expand on that jewelry journey. And that's when I found yourself. And because everything that you do is online, it just aligned perfectly with where my life was at. So I just went on that diploma, I took a leap of faith, and it really just became like my form of self-care and how I kind of regathered myself, rebuilt myself, and gave myself a bit of a new focus and an outlet as well.
Absolutely. And you're a therapist, aren't you? You've been a therapist
Yeah,
for many years. And did that
yeah.
did that come first and then the wellness center kind of grew out of that private practice, or how did the wellness center come
Yeah.
to be?
The wellness centre came when I'd been working in my private practice for a number of years, and I just wanted to provide something more for my clients. I think the 1 hour of therapy a week or every 2 weeks is great. But if I could also provide a safe space for meditation, for yoga, for workshops, for lovely holistic treatments, that was a little dream of mine, and it became a reality, and it was wonderful. And it's still running, it still exists. It's been left with my business partners. And I think it's just really important that people have that space, whatever you're drawn to, whatever helps you to feel more grounded, more relaxed, more calm, whatever you feel is your form of self-care. I think we all need that space, that safe space.
Mm.
For me, it's become jewelry. It's become my little workshop over here. That's my safe space. But it was a dream of mine to create that safe space for the people. And I'm really happy that I was able to do that.
Mm. And I think that's a really interesting point, isn't it? When we look back at our previous lives or things that we've done before
Mm.
jewelry, it never has to be a bad thing, does it? It can be like, oh, I love doing that at that time. That was right for me then. And obviously burnout is not an enjoyable state to be, but almost anything, and even people who are leaving corporate jobs or
Yeah,
roles that they've also enjoyed, but it's just like a new chapter. And I love that about jewelry. A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times for people, it's like this new lease of life where it's like, oh,
yeah,
I'm finding myself, I can make and
yeah.
create. And it's quite solitary, isn't it? But it doesn't
Mhm.
feel lonely. I think it can just feel like we're in our own world, quite mindful and making. And then yeah, it's there's a lot kind of tied up in it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it can be really quite almost you can feel like it's a moving meditation almost. You know, like you say, it's mindful. I think you can really lose yourself in that creative process. And for me, if ever I feel overwhelmed, sometimes being a therapist, you know, you're dealing with a lot of heavy stuff all day, every day. So whenever I feel overwhelmed or just like life's getting a bit too much, the very first thing I want to do is just get to the bench, see what I've got lying around, you know, see what I can just kind of get lost in for a couple of hours. And it really does feel like some form of meditation for me. And I'm sure it does for a lot of other people as well.
Absolutely. Did you always love making things when you were younger, or is it something that you found more later in life? Because I think it reminds me of when you talk about it, almost like a child, like, I just want to play with my toys, like
Yeah.
shut out the
I
world and
think,
just play. It's really lovely.
yeah, I think it really is like that. And I think when I moved my business online and I was spending a lot more time down the beach and collecting shells and making the shell jewelry, I think that was why that was so therapeutic for me, because it was always transporting me back to childhood. Um, Innocent days, happy days, carefree days when you're just on the beach, collecting your shells, loving life. And yeah, I think that's what it just took me back to. And it was really nice to have that sort of quite playful, free sort of re-entry back into creativity. And and I hope that's something that I've kind of carried through. I try to be sort of free and playful with jewelry and not too hard on myself or serious or too caught up on perfection. I try to be a bit more organic and free flowing with it
Mm.
most of the time.
Yes, it's challenging, isn't it? I think as jewelers,
Yeah.
we're almost training ourselves to be perfectionists because we're looking at the
Yeah.
tiniest minute detail and correcting it. But you're right, there is a letting go of like knowing when something's finished or when you're happy with it or
Yeah.
that you just enjoyed the process. And
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like you have a good relationship with it, which is what we all strive for.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then, so then you came across a diploma. Had you ever made any jewelry before, or was it quite a leap for you to, or are you just one of those people who's like, I see it, I want it, I'm doing it? What was your kind of journey to through the
Um,
diploma and signing up for it and things?
I think I can be a little bit of a 100-mile-an-hour person and a bit spontaneous sometimes. So I knew I was searching for something to do with jewelry. And like I say, when I found yourself and everything was online, for me, I was just kind of like, right, let's just do it. Let's just sign up. Let's just go for it. I'd never done anything like it before. So it was completely quite random, really, to be honest. It
Yeah.
felt really right at the time, but looking back, it probably did seem pretty random to most other people. And I remember when you get all of the materials sent to you, don't you, quite a while before you start. And I remember unboxing it or looking at the tools and the materials, thinking, "What have I done? I've got no idea what any of this stuff is." Um, but it's
Yeah.
still amazing. You can go on an online course, jewelry course, with no experience and come out the end of that knowing how to actually make fine jewelry. It really did blow my mind that you can do all of that online on your own, pretty much, with the support of the course. It's been a massive surprise and learning curve, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll talk a bit more about your business in a bit as well, but you've done such amazing things with it and you have a great online presence. And I think your business skills as well probably helped in terms of that you had run a business before. So you were kind of
Yeah.
perhaps just the tenacity sometimes of just being like, I'm going for it, I'm doing it. And uh,
Yeah.
yeah, we had a little chat before, and it's almost the opposite problem that you have, maybe of like not going for it too much because you don't want to end
Yeah.
up in that sort of burnout space again, because you can burn out from anything, even jewelry, even wellness. But
Even wellness.
yeah, finding that kind of pace and things. So
Yeah.
lovely. And who was your mentor on the course, just out of curiosity?
I had Chloe as
Mhm.
my
Yeah.
tutor, and she actually helped me loads since we finished the course as well on a couple of projects I've been working on that have been a bit tricky. But yeah, she's always chatting to me on Instagram. I've had a couple of calls with her. So that was a perfect match. And she's actually
Oh,
been an
amazing.
amazing help
Yeah.
since finishing the diploma as well. And it's really nice to know that there's someone who I've got a little bit of a connection with that I can reach out to and sort of say, help, I don't know how to do this. What can we do about it? And she was more than happy to be on the end of the phone and give me some support, which was amazing.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, she's so talented. She just seems to know about
Yeah.
everything in jewelry making.
Yeah,
She's really got a
Sarah, she's
amazing
great.
experience and very, very supportive, lovely kind of person. So, yeah,
Definitely.
awesome. Brilliant. So you completed your diploma. So tell us
Mhm.
about the business. Did you start that during the diploma? Did you start it afterwards? And then maybe tell us a bit about why wedding jewelry. How did this kind of concept come about?
Okay, so like you said, I do, well, like we both said, I do rush into things sometimes. So as soon as I started on the course and the diploma, and I thought it was amazing, I was like, right, I need to get my Instagram set up. I need to get some ideas going. And I just went for it, really, even though I was so new. The stuff I was making was, very beginner level, obviously. That didn't matter to me. I just wanted to get something out there, get something growing. It didn't need to be perfect. I just wanted to get something off the ground. And for me, the wedding aspect came in because in 2020, I got married and I was looking for wedding jewelry, obviously. And everything I was finding online, even though it's absolutely beautiful, it all just felt too perfect, too polished, too sparkly, which is gorgeous, but it just wasn't it didn't feel like it was representing my natural kind of taste or style. So I managed to source some alternative things in the end. But then when I was thinking about starting up my business, that to me just felt like a really natural space to try and move into. Just trying to make wedding jewelry a bit more raw, a bit more organic looking, really inspired by the beach, by Mother Nature. And yeah, just for people like myself who still want something really beautiful to wear on their wedding day, but just want it to have a little bit of a edge or a little bit of a difference to it.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I think you're right, like weddings in particular, and I think especially now, in this kind of day and age, people really want something that represents them more than just
Yeah,
something lovely.
yeah.
Because we want to be ourselves, we want to represent. Oh, well, sorry. I'll just say that line again. Because we want to be ourselves, we want to represent ourselves. And I think, yeah, I can understand what you mean with the really pristine kind of clean
Mhm.
look. It's not always in line. So I imagine that there's a really, really nice kind of market out there. And I think what's lovely about what you've done is you've taken a need that you had, that
Yeah,
you wanted, and you've created it for other people. And I always find that if it's something that I really want, the same with the courses at Jewelers Academy, I was like, I want this training. I'm gonna
right.
make it for myself and everyone else. And then it's kind of like people are naturally drawn to that because if one person enjoys it, probably there's going to be people out there who do as well. So that was your concept. And tell us a bit about your business journey, like how it's grown, how it's evolved, what it's like for you day to day in running your business now.
Yeah, I think it's definitely been a journey. It's been a big learning curve, which has been great. I think the biggest thing I've learned is to slow down a little bit. That's been a really big lesson for me. Just relax, take a breath. You don't have to rush everything and give yourself time. When you're learning a new skill, there's so much to learn and there's so many different ways you can do things with jewelry. There's so many different methods and techniques and styles and so many different things. So I think it's been really helpful for me to just slow down and enjoy the process, find the processes that work for me. So I've recently got into water casting, which I'm loving. And I just think it's about
Very addictive
experimenting.
casting.
I get so addicted. I think 'cause it's quite a simple concept as well, isn't it? And it's quite easy to get such unusual, interesting pieces out of that process. So yeah, just slowing down, finding what works for you, and taking your time. And again, they're not pressuring it all to be perfect. And for me, I'm obviously running two businesses. So I have my online private practice and I have the jewelry business. So I think it's just about being realistic with my expectations as well. And I don't get to do jewelry every day. I sometimes have to schedule it in certain days throughout my week. But just a bit of discipline and routine, I think, has been really important. So on a weekly basis, I make sure I have a couple of days at least a week where I'm creating and just try to let myself enjoy it as much as possible and really enjoy that process.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think, kind of a theme in your story is wanting to do things and wanting to achieve. And I can really relate to it as well because I'm similar. I'm sort of like 100 miles an hour. And then
Yeah.
over time, especially as I've got older, I've realized like it's not sustainable. Like when I was
Yeah.
20, things were a bit different. And it's sort of like, oh, how can I, yeah, pace myself and enjoy what I'm doing and, not feel
Yeah.
guilty for having breaks and having time and realizing that that is part of the business. And we talk about this a lot in our
Mm.
business programs, like rest is part of your business. Like it needs
A
to be
100%.
in your business strategy. Yeah, but are there any things, I mean, you've talked about some of them, but things that you do now, with your interest in wellness and therapy and those things to look after yourself around running these two businesses? Yeah, how do you
Yeah.
kind of manage
I
yourself?
think well, rest is a big one. I think generally speaking, it's about understanding what you need, what self-care you need. So it's different for everybody. But really being able to identify what do you need to be able to support in order to maintain your businesses or business or whatever it is that you're doing. So do you need to support having more energy? Do you need to support having more structure and more routine? And then just engaging in the types of self care that actually are meaningful to what you want to support. Because I think, you said earlier you can burn out from wellness, which is absolutely true. And we are we are bombarded online with all of the self care things that we should be doing, all of the mental health support, all of the wellness things. And that can be overwhelming in itself. Just thinking, well, I've got to go for a run. I've got to do an ice plunge. I've got to have a cold shower. I've got to meditate for an hour. Nobody's got time to do all of these things. So I think for me, it's just drilling down into actually what I need and just one or two things that would really support that. So intentional rest is a really big one for me. Exercise is a really big one for me. Not a lot of it, just, regular and meditation. So
Mm.
those are kind of my three sort of pillars, if you like, of self-care that really help me maintain the the pressure, if you like, of running two different businesses. They're very different. They require very different skill set. So I've got to try and be switched on as much as possible to do that.
Yeah, and I imagine they might complement each other in a way in that they are so different. I
Yeah.
interviewed someone a little while ago, and she's a physiotherapist and a jeweler, and she
Oh, okay.
loves that she can be with people and talk to them and help them but then it's also it's dealing with people in pain, so I guess similar to you in many ways.
Yeah.
And actually she does a lot of hammering with her jewelry
Uh,
making, and it's kind of like tension release, and that it's
yeah.
kind of like the yin and yang, I suppose. And I think I can
Yeah.
see how a very people focused business could work quite well with something like jewelry, which all businesses are about people, but when we're making, it can be quite a solitary kind of experience.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I love that you've broken down your self-care as well. I love what you said about like all the things we have to do, because I think there can
Much.
feel a lot of pressure to like get up and do like 25 things before you've even sat down. And um,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's nice that you do have things, but you know what those things are, and that's enough. And you don't need to sort
Yeah.
of jump on every single wellness thing that comes up to feel like you're
Yeah.
looking after yourself. Yeah, yeah. Do you have like a morning routine, or do you have, yeah, what routines help you and structure, or
I,
are you quite fluid and just kind of go with the flow? Because everyone's sort of different in that way as well, aren't they?
yeah. I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I like it. I like my structure. I like my routine, but I also appreciate that we fluctuate as people. You know, especially if we have a cycle, we fluctuate through different weeks of the month. We can feel very different. So I try to tune into how I'm feeling first and foremost. And if I can do exercise in the morning and I'm feeling okay to do that, great. If I can then follow that up with some meditation, great. I think as much as it's kind of like my three boxes that I want to tick is my exercise and my meditation and stuff. If that's not what I'm feeling and that's not where I'm at, I've got to a place now where I can be kind of kind enough to myself to say, actually, maybe what you need to do today is just nothing.
Mm.
Maybe what you need to do today is just have that extra 20 minutes in bed, and that's okay, and that's fine. So yes, structure, but also a bit of kindness and compassion and tuning into the body as well.
Yeah, I love that. You're not sort of like, I've decided I'm doing this, so we're doing it. And that's that kind of fixed
Yeah.
discipline, I suppose, which isn't always helpful. Um,
Yeah, we need to
yeah,
fluctuate with our progressing
yeah,
is really important.
yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense to me. And it's really nice, I think, how kind you are to yourself. I think that that's something that we can all aspire to, that kindness
Yeah.
of, and I'm sure it comes and goes for us all.
Definitely.
This idea of, yeah, like, how am I today? What do I need? And I have a plan, but it's okay to change the plan. And I think that
Mhm.
applies to jewelry making a lot as well. Like, sometimes things go to plan and sometimes they don't. And
Yeah.
it can be very easy to have negative self-talk when we're making, because you think, oh no, I've done that wrong, or I shouldn't have done that, or the
Yeah.
solder's not working and I need to, why do I keep doing this wrong? And yeah, I guess even just recognizing that inner critic and sort of being like, it's okay, like, we can take a little break and
Yeah.
come back, and we're learning, and all these kind of things.
Absolutely. I think the best tip that someone said, I think it was in the Facebook group when I was on the diploma, someone said in there, um, in fact, lots of people said this, the best thing you can do for yourself when you're having a soldering nightmare or whatever it might be, just walk away. Just stop. Just let it go. It's not gone to plan, and that's okay. And I exercised that so many times during the diploma. Just don't force it. If it's not happening, there's a reason it's not happening in that moment. Just walk away, grab a cup of tea and come back. And I think that was the, probably the best, most helpful piece of advice I got during the diploma, because it comes up so often.
Yeah, sometimes that's just very practical of like, stop, just
Yeah,
stop what you're doing. It's, you
stop
have
forcing it.
tried, you've heated it up enough, it's not
Yeah,
working. And yeah, then coming back with that fresh mind, and that can apply to any kind of jewelry making, I suppose, and business as well.
yes,
But
definitely.
yeah, it's very exciting. So you've completed the diploma, you're making your jewelry, you're exploring your water casting, which is really cool. Um,
Yeah,
how do you find your customers for your business? Is that mostly through social media, or tell us a bit about your customers?
it was in the very beginning all family and friends, which was great. That was really, really nice. It was really lovely in the early days to be making pieces for um, people that know me and that were really trying to support the journey that I was on. It's still family and friends now, which is great. They're still coming back for more pieces, which I love. But it's also social media, I would say, is my biggest thing. I haven't put myself out there in terms of market yet, and going and having a stall and physically selling to people. That's on my to-do list, something that I want to achieve. But yeah, at the moment it's a word of mouth and social media.
Amazing. And you're quite active on Instagram, aren't you? I think you said from the
Yeah.
beginning of the diploma, you were like, right, I'm going on Instagram, which I love. It's great, to share the journey and to kind of get in there. How's your
Yeah.
relationship with social media? Because that can also affect wellness, shall we say?
It can. I think, like with anything, it ebbs and flows. And I think it's just about, again, knowing when to take a break, knowing when to just step back for a bit. I think you can get really caught up on how many people have looked at what I posted, how many likes, how many comments. And, you know, I know those things have their place when you're building a business and they are important metrics to look at. But there's other things as well that I think are important to take into consideration. And one of the big things with social media is how they're making you feel. If it's making you feel stressed, then not good enough, and you're comparing yourself to all these other amazing jewelers that you're seeing. That's probably a bit of a red flag to just take a step back for a bit and just regroup. So I think that's what I think I have a good relationship with it on the whole. But if I can feel myself getting sucked in a little bit to those vanity metrics and um the comparison thing, that's my little sign to just kind of say, take a break. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you're not on there for a week or so. It doesn't matter. Just take a break.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I had a little period a while ago where I was getting, because I've been on Instagram for a long time now. I was like, I don't
Yeah.
want to do it anymore. I'm
Yeah.
tired of posting. And I remember speaking to a friend about it, because I really enjoy being on social media usually. So I was like, what's going on? And she was like, maybe just post when you want to instead of
Yeah.
like, always on a schedule, and just wait to be inspired. And I did that, and it didn't take very long, but it was just like, yeah, where it's coming from. Is it coming from a place of like, I've made this thing and I really want to share it with everyone? Because that's such a
Yeah.
nice energy of like, again, going back to the little kid of like, look what I made. Like everyone, like,
Yeah.
how cool is this? Rather than, oh, it's Tuesday. I said I'd post this on Tuesday and don't really want to do it, but I've got to do it for my business. And yeah, I think kind of like falling in love again with what you love about jewelry and what you love about sharing
Yeah.
that love of jewelry can be a really nice. I found that really helpful with.
Yeah. I think it makes your content as well just come across as so much more authentic,
Mm,
um, and then relatable. And then, something that you've spoken about on the diploma and on social media is, people want to know who you are. They want to trust who they're buying from. They want to trust who they're engaging with. Um, when people are buying jewelry, it's not normally cheap. It's normally like a pricey product, handmade jewelry. So yeah, you want to build that trust, you want to build that relationship. And I think if you're posting for the joy of it, then it's real and then it's authentic and people can connect with that.
absolutely. Yes. Wonderful. So what's next for you, without putting too much pressure on?
What is new?
Question, but
I think
what's the future?
what's the future? I think I really want to get into the swing of just building my collections a little bit more. Because I'm a bit like within 100 miles an hour, sometimes things aren't as complete as they could be. So I think I would like to just work on building up some nice collections, probably with water casting and different techniques that I'm experimenting with, and start getting myself out there physically. So away from social media, getting in front of people, and just, yeah, spreading it about as much as I can, I think, and just continuing to enjoy and share the process and let everything build organically. Ideally, that's what I'd like to do.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, I don't see any reason why that won't happen. That sounds awesome. And I can't wait to see the collections and the sandcast pieces all in good time. Um,
Yeah.
and if people who've been listening want to come and give you a follow and say hi, please do. Where's the best place for them to connect with you online?
The best place is Instagram, so at the Little Wedding Jeweler. That is where I share everything. So that's where you'll find me.
Brilliant. I will make sure we put a link to that in the show notes. So go and say hello to Emily, and yeah, let her know you listened to the episode. It's always really nice to get feedback. And Emily, thank you so much for coming on. It's really interesting and inspiring for me to see someone who's completed the diploma and then is kind of living out their dream business. And yeah,
Mhm.
it's just awesome. And I think you've got, really inspiring story for people as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank
Lovely to
you.
chat today.
Thanks for having me.